Even though Animal Crossing isn't my favorite track in the game, or even a track that I particularly care for at all, to be honest, credit where credit is due, this is one of the most innovative courses in the entire game. I really enjoy the concept of having multiple seasons for one track, each of which feels unique both in terms of the track design and in the music. I also appreciate how much of the source material they tried to incorporate into the course, except of course for this jackass right here. Welcome to part 92 of Basic Training, where we're going to cover everything you need to know about Animal Crossing on 200cc. As always, we're going to cover the recommended builds, mushroom strats, coin lines, and other advanced tips and tricks to help you start mastering the course. Just like Animal Crossing itself, this tutorial is going to be fairly unique in comparison to my other tutorials. The whole track is honestly pretty straightforward, and so there's not much to break down in terms of beginner versus advanced versus world record strategies. So what I'm first going to do is just discuss each of the 4 seasons in this track and how they differ from one another. Because the time trial uses summer every time, I'll also let you know how to get practice in specific seasons if that's something you're interested in. After that, I'll walk you through the strategies that I use in my current personal best with random asides to talk about the world record strats as appropriate. One more thing before we get started. I got a lot of help with this video from 4 Laps to Win, who pulled off a time of 1:10.997 back in April, which happens to be the current world record. I got a link to his YouTube channel in the description, so check him out. Every time I go over some info that he contributed, I'll bring up a little notification like this. And with all that out of the way, let's go cross some animals. The build for this course looks all sorts of weird. We're going to be using Morton, Teddy Buggy, Azure Rollers, and Waddle Wing. This is one of the shorter tracks in the games, and it also doesn't have a lot of places where we can build up lots of mini turbos, so we're going for a relatively high speed build here. Now Wiggler and Teddy Buggy have the same ground speed, but Teddy Buggy actually has a little bit less traction, or grip. So why are we using it? 2 reasons really. One is that it has slightly higher airspeed, and 2, it's got a bit of a weird hitbox, which is going to make it easier to execute one of the strats that we're going to go for a little bit later on in the run. That's enough of the build though, let's talk a little bit about how this track works. So like I said, Animal Crossing is a pretty unique course in that there are 4 unique versions of the track, one for each season. The time trial version is summer, and we're going to cover it in detail in this video. In comparison to summer, spring has a lot more ramps. They're placed in pretty awkward positions though, and on 200cc this can really screw with your lines. In contrast, fall pretty much has no ramps at all. This is ideal for learning how to speedrun the game on 200cc because the ramp on the beach can be really annoying to learn how to hit properly. Then, there's winter. We don't talk about winter. It's actually my favorite version of the track in terms of how it looks, but the problem is that the whole track has ice physics, and it's also got these gigantic snowmen littering the track. And they're placed like right in the middle of the track, so they're really annoying to try and navigate around. Now when you play online, the game picks a season at random, so you're just kind of stuck with the luck of the draw there. But most people don't know that when you're playing in Grand Prix mode or in versus races, you can actually pick which season to play. When you're on the track select screen, holding down one of the shoulder buttons dictates which season you're going to get. For spring, hold down L when selecting the track. For summer, hold down R. For fall, hold down ZL. And for winter, hold down ZR. The cool thing is that, like I said, it works in Grand Prix mode as well, and all you have to do is start holding down the appropriate shoulder button before selecting the cup. And don't let go until after the loading screen pops up. This also works for versus races, so even if you're running through all 48 tracks, as long as you're holding down the appropriate shoulder button before picking the first track in your run, you'll be able to control which season you get. One interesting thing about this is that in mirror mode the buttons are switched, so ZL for winter, ZR for fall, R for spring, and L for summer. This sort of thing is primarily useful in speedrunning to make your runs more consistent because, for example, if you get winter on 200cc, it costs something like 7 seconds over fall, even if you play 100% optimally. So yeah, pretty nifty. But that's enough of that. Let's start talking about how to actually play the course. So, like I mentioned at the beginning, the time trial season is going to be summer, and it's generally pretty straightforward until we get to the beach. Start by tricking off the top of the bridge and keep holding down the trick button so that when you land in a drift. Sometimes the bridge trick can be a little bit finicky, so if you find yourself having trouble actually getting that trick, then just shake the controller to trick instead. Now after that, you should be able to take the first turn tightly with a neutral drift, but tap right on the joystick if you need to. Here's the first kind of tricky part of the run. We want to grab this first coin here in front of the tree, but then we want to drift around the outside of the tree, otherwise we'll take a really bad line on the next turn. In order to do that, you want to release your mini turbo and angle yourself so that you're directly facing the coin. Then once your mini turbo runs out, start your right drift, and as soon as you land, start holding left on the joystick to widen your drift angle. Once you pass the tree, you can start holding right on the joystick to grab the coin. Finally, once you build up the super mini turbo, release and start a left drift to grab the third coin, build up a mini turbo, and trick off the ramp. Moving on to the next part of the track, the way that I do this section is by just grabbing the 2 coins on the right hand side of the track and then starting a left drift. However, the world record approaches the coins from the left side so that when they land, they're moving towards this little gap in between the log on the right hand side of the track and the log in the middle further up the track. This allows them to land immediately in a drift, which is faster than starting the drift after the fact like I do. Either way though, after starting the left drift, hold right on the joystick to widen your drift angle and grab the outside coin in the first line, and then as soon as you grab it, start holding left a bit to grab the coin on the second line. Now we've made it to the beach, and this is going to be hands down the most annoying part of the track. The goal here is to build up a mini turbo and then trick off the ramp. The problem is that after coming out of the turn going into the beach, you're naturally moving toward the second ramp here, and if you go off of it, your run is basically over, since you're almost guaranteed to run either into the off-road or into the wall. So what you want to do is take this first turn to the inside, and then the slipperiness of the beach should carry you onto the ramp. Try and position yourself such that you're going off the left-hand side of this ramp and that you're angled toward the off-road. Then release your mini turbo and trick, and while in mid-air, keep holding down the drift button, and then as soon as you land, start holding a hard right on the joystick. If done correctly, you should be able to make it all the way to the next turn without actually going into the off-road. Like I said, this is easily the most difficult part of the whole course, and it probably kills about 90% of my runs. The other 10% is taken care of by the end of the lap, but we'll get there shortly. After landing from that first ramp on the beach, you'll notice a line of 3 coins. You want to hug this turn tightly and then grab coins 2 and 3 from that coin line. By this point, you should have a super mini turbo built up, so release and make your way to the orange boost ramp. This next sequence is not super difficult, but just difficult enough that at least in my case, it's been known to kill some really good pace runs on lap 3. After releasing the super mini turbo, we're going to come up on a bridge here. Make your way to the left hand side of the bridge, and then instead of tricking off of it, we're going to want to just let it carry us into the air. Now here comes the tricky part. While you're in midair, start holding down the drift button and right on the joystick so that as soon as you land, you'll start a right drift. But then immediately upon landing, start holding down left so that you can go off the left hand side of the orange boost ramp, which will allow you to approach the upcoming mushroom shortcut from the left hand side of the track. Once you go off the ramp, start holding down a hard right on the joystick so that you can start charging levels of mini turbo in midair. And then once you land, you want to widen your drift angle just a bit so that you don't run into the wall of the mushroom shortcut. Once you get to the off-road, use your mushroom and start holding down a hard right on the joystick. What's going to happen is that you'll be carried into the off-road on the left-hand side of the track. But if you build up a super mini turbo in time, you can use part of the momentum from the mushroom and part of the momentum from the super mini turbo to do a left hop, which will take you clean over the off-road and back onto the track to finish the lap. The world record does a slightly different setup where they start holding right on the joystick just after going off the ramp so that when they land, they're facing a bit further to the right than I am. This allows them to get a better line going into the off-road. But every time I tried this, I screwed it up, so it's a bit trickier than it looks is what I'm trying to say here. And with that, we've finished the lap. There's only a couple differences between lap 1 and laps 2 and 3. First, after tricking off the bridge at the start of the lap, you want to start a right drift, and then as soon as you build up a mini turbo, release and immediately start your next right drift. The goal being to take the turns right before the glider ramp as tightly as possible. And then after going off the glider ramp, you want to try and maneuver in such a way that you land on the back half of the rightmost log so that you can get a trick boost off of it without getting any airtime. This is a bit tricky to learn, and I mess it up on my run in lap 3. Unfortunately, there's not really a consistent setup for it. You kind of just have to mess with it until you figure out something that works for you. And if you're not that good at it and you're getting frustrated, then I suggest just doing exactly what I did on lap 1, where you just go in between the 2 logs, because if you do get airtime off the log, it's going to seriously screw up your run. Now before checking out the full run, let's quickly recap the coin lines. You'll get your first coin from right after the first turn of the track. Your second coin will come at the start of the second turn, and your third coin will be right before the glider ramp. Coins 4 and 5 will come after the glider ramp, and coins 6 and 7 will come from the start of the beach section. Coin 8 will be at the top of the beach ramp, and then coins 9 and 10 will come from after exiting the beach. Alright, let's check out how all the strategies are put together in a full run. And that's everything you need to know about Animal Crossing on 200cc. I really wish they added each season as its own time trial, that way you don't have to get into janky dev tool type shenanigans just to practice a certain season, cause I still have absolutely no idea how to play on winter. All in all, like I said, I'm not particularly fond of this course, and that may just be because I'm not a big fan of Animal Crossing, but I really do appreciate the care and effort that went into the track design to make sure that it would be satisfying to fans of the series, and frankly, that's enough for me. Before we close out the video, I just want to say that if you found this tutorial helpful, it'd be a huge help if you dropped a like and a comment. This not only lets me know that you're enjoying the content, but it also lets YouTube know to recommend my videos to other racers who might be looking for tips and tricks on how to improve. Also, if you've been watching a lot of my videos, I release a new tutorial every week, so consider becoming a subscriber and hitting the notification bell if you want to stay up to date with my latest content. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to do some basic training, and as always, I will see you in the next video.